And you're waking up with Damo here on 4AK. It is time for us to get some local history in your ears. And we do that with only one person. That is, of course, from History Out There, Harold Peacock. Good morning, mate.
Yes, good morning.
How are you today?
Oh, fantastic. It's nice and warm up on the range. 11 degrees, you tell me? It's
Yes.
positively balmy.
Yes, exactly. And, of course, you're back in Queensland again.
Oh, happily so. I didn't want to be over there. The State of Origin coming up over in Perth. I did not want to be in that area just in case.
Well, there you go. Just in case, yes. We've got our fingers crossed that the Maroons can pull the second game out and make it a 1-1 draw.
Absolutely. Go Queensland.
There we go.
But
Now,
there's crimes over here in the meantime, apart from games getting stolen off us.
yes?
There's been stuff happening in Toowoomba and
Well,
Warwick and everywhere.
Exactly, mate. We're going to take our listeners back 120 years today to when a Warwick Undertaker was taken down.
Yeah, that's right. In 1905, there was a Thomas Canby. Now, he had a particularly long and sad face when he approached Warwick's longest-serving Undertaker. The tragic news was that Canby's mother, Mrs. Margaret Kidston, had died at Murray's Bridge on the Warwick to Killarney Road. And Warwick's esteemed Dr. Arthur Phillips had attended the dying lady, as had the respected Reverend Father James Horan. Now, Mrs. Kidston was the sister-in-law of the Honourable William Kidston, who was the then Treasurer and soon to be the 17th Premier of Queensland. Now, Canby only wanted the best for his mother. He ordered 3 mourning coaches and a hearse at a total cost of £15. That's a lot of money, 120 years ago. And Canby wanted to do the right thing and paid a £1 deposit. And so he tendered a cheque for £2, 18 shillings, 7 that he had, and received in exchange the Undertaker's cheque less the £1. Now, the Undertaker that he engaged was Mr. Frederick Reimers, who was the longest-serving Undertaker on the Darling Downs, like I said. Now, Reimers had first arrived in Warwick in about 1866 and learned his trade working under the Undertaker and cabinet maker, Mr. Paul Medini. Now, Reimers set up business for himself as an Undertaker, as well as a cabinet maker and house furnishing manufacturing. So people out there might have furniture in the house by the Undertaker, because carpentry was often a trade undertaken by undertakers because it was profitable to make their own coffins and also provided a way of making money between funerals. And death and carpentry obviously paid well, because Reimers built his own 2-storey premises on the corner of Guy and Grafton Streets in Warwick.
Right.
Now, for the funeral of Mrs. Kidston, the sister-in-law of the soon-to-be Premier, Reimers made all the necessary arrangements, and that included getting the nameplate engraved to be attached to the coffin. It read, Margaret A.H. Kidston, aged 74, died January 15, 1905. Everything was set to go and ready for 10 o'clock on Tuesday, the 17th of January, 1905. That's when the funeral was set to leave Murray's Bridge for the Warwick Cemetery.
Right.
The only thing is, Damo, it was all a big lie.
What?
Because Reverend Father James Horan, who was claimed to have visited the dying woman, he knew nothing about it. He was one of 4 Irish brothers who all became priests, and just 4 months after the alleged death of Miss Kidston, he himself was dead.
Wow.
And Dr. Arthur Phillips, who supposedly attended the woman, he also knew nothing about it. And later, he himself would die following an appendix operation, and that despite being treated by Toowoomba's best doctor and every single doctor that Warwick possessed. Now, the death of Mrs. Margaret Kidston was all a fraud. She didn't die either, although 2 years earlier there was a Miss Margaret Kidston, who was the 22-year-old daughter of the future Premier, and she died after an operation, but certainly was not the alleged death in Warwick. Now, even the real identity of Thomas Canby was in doubt. Canby claimed that his family lived on the Pikedale Road 6 miles from Stanthorpe, but in reality, he was a 28-year-old recurring criminal up from New South Wales. He was known as Thomas Canby, alias S.H. Adams, alias H. Campbell, alias John Kidston.
Oh.
He was a native of Tenterfield, and his father, so Canby eventually said, was a squatter in the Inverell district. Now, Canby was quite a good-looking young man. He was a decent height of 6'2" tall, dark complexion. He had a small brown moustache and a dimple in his chin. He was rather well dressed too, wearing a dark coat and vest, a white sweater, brown tweed trousers, and a brown felt hat. Perhaps he looked a bit too good, and there was something a little too rehearsed in his grief. See, Canby actually worked as a shearer, and sadly was addicted to drink.
Oh.
He pleaded guilty to falsely obtaining the sum of £1, 18 shillings, 7pence, and was sentenced to what seems to me like a pretty harsh 6 months hard labour in Brisbane's Boggeray jail.
Wow.
And as for Mr. Frederick Reimers, the Undertaker, who was taken down, he passed away in Warwick 10 years later in 1915. But his business continued to live on thanks to his sons, operating under the name of Reimers Brothers for at least another 25 years. And the Premier, William Kitson, well, he enjoyed a pretty good political career. And his wife, who was the real Margaret Kitson, she died just 5 years after the Warwick fraud. So our visitor, the crime to Warwick and the fake death and funeral didn't actually make up everything, but it was all a fraud. And unusually, an Undertaker was taken down.
Well, there you go. Another great story. I don't know how you keep finding them, but you do, don't you?
Oh, look, there's so much history. The place is rich in the Darling Downs and Granite Belt. There's an endless supply. So you'll kick me off one day, but there's plenty more to find.
Yeah, there certainly is. Now, you're going to post that on your website?
Absolutely. My website is historyouthere.com. And that'll go up on Friday.
All right, up on Friday, historyouthere.com. Don't forget you can read that story and many others that Harold has told on the show. And it's always good to look back at some of those wonderful stories. And we'll look forward to next week when we'll do it all again.
Oh, yes, it's another surprising one next week too. So I really look forward to it.
All right, me too. Thank you so much, mate. You have a great week.
You too. Stay warm.
There we go. Harold Peacock, and check out that story and many others on historyouthere.com. We'll take a break. Back with our birthdays.